Hey guys, welcome back. It's Marissa. This week, we're going to be talking about something that's a little bit of a conundrum for most clinicians, and that is social media. We're also going to be talking about how to pick the perfect platform for your practice. So stay tuned and learn all about where you should be promoting your content in the first place. Hey guys. Okay, so this week we're talking about that a lot of people struggle with, and that is which social media platform should you be on. I was really called to make this video for you guys because there's a bit of kind of some bad advice going around out there about how to use social media for your therapy practice. And some of that advice says, just pick a platform that you love and just use the heck out of it. And unfortunately, I wish it was that easy, but it's not. And we'll talk about why it's not that easy. And then some people also just say to be on every platform and just kind of use a spray and pray method and just put it all out there and it'll stick, like throwing spaghetti at the wall. And I also want to tell you that that's bad advice as well. For any of my clients who are new to social media, I always suggest starting with only one platform. And we'll talk about which platform that might be for you. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The first thing that we have to talk about before we even talk about social media platforms is your ideal client. And I'm sure you guys knew that was coming because I'm like the niche queen and I just preach about it all the time. But you need to know who your niche is before you do your marketing. The reason for this is if you're trying to attract certain clientele and they're hanging out on one social media platform and you're putting all of your energy into this one, it's not going to do you any good. So you need to know who you are marketing. If you're new to niching or if you need a little bit of help in that area, I have another video on this. You guys can scroll up and look for it. It's my 5 steps to nailing your niche. It goes through my signature process and gives lots of examples of how to find a pinpoint niche and how to kind of ripple out from there. So if you need to pause this video, go watch that one and come back, go ahead and do that. But you really need to know who you're talking to before you start promoting your content. All right, now that I said that whole niching spiel, let's go ahead and get started. So that first piece of advice that said that you need to pick whatever platform you love and use the heck out of it is so wrong. I'm going to be a little controversial here. Is so wrong because, like I was just saying earlier, just because you love Snapchat and you love the funny faces and making yourself a bunny and a kitty and whatever, does not mean that your ideal client is even on Snapchat. So don't waste your time. I mean, I really can't see any of us using Snapchat for our therapy practices, but you know what I'm saying. Just because you love the platform does not mean that your client loves it, okay? And then the other thing I want to combat of the being on every platform, it's way too much. I'm a professional online marketer and I'm not on every platform. Now, I will say there's a little caveat to that, that you do want to go ahead and sign up for a lot of platforms, at least the big main ones, with your practice name, or if your practice is under your personal brand or your personal name, whatever. You want to go ahead and reserve that profile just so that if you do ever expand into that platform, that it's already there. Because it would really suck to be, like Hope and Wellness Counseling on everything and then have to be like Joe Schmo, whatever, on one platform. It really kind of skews your brand. It dilutes your brand a little bit. So while I definitely preach and teach all my clients to only focus on one at a time, or one until they get really good at it and start getting results, go ahead and at least hop on, Twitter, Facebook, some of the big ones, LinkedIn or whatever, under your practice name or under your brand name, and at least set up a profile. So the first tip, and I've already alluded to this a little bit, is that it's not about your personal preference. It's entirely about your client's preference. So what I mean by that is, I'm going to just throw some random demographics out there. Like I said, you guys can download the worksheet. It's actually not even a worksheet, it's just a handout. But you can download the handout and follow along with some of this, what I'm saying. But if you, here's a really great example. So if you haven't noticed yet, I'm very verbose and I like to talk. And I could just talk all day long. And I hate Twitter. The reason I hate Twitter and the reason I do not have a personal preference for Twitter is because I can't even fit a half of a sentence or a third of a sentence into 140 characters. I also, now that they've upped it to like 260 or whatever, still can't fit half of a sentence into 260 characters. So my personal preference is absolutely not Twitter. However, some of my clients are on Twitter. So I've got to figure out a way to not necessarily start to prefer that platform, but use that platform to my advantage. The same is true if you're not necessarily a visual person and you struggle with something like Instagram, where you've got to take 9 pictures and they've got to be cohesive and they've got to go together and evoke an emotion and speak visually to your clients. If that sounds like hell to you, then perhaps, Instagram is a challenge. But I also say if your client is female, your ideal client is female and under 30, you need to have some sort of Instagram presence. I'm sorry. So while we may not prefer these platforms, if our client is on them, we need to be on them. So we need to figure out, where are they? Where are they hanging out? And how can I position my content where they are? So think about this. You're standing in line to buy movie tickets, Star Wars or something equally exciting just came out, and you're waiting in line, and I bet you if you looked around, a vast majority of people would have their phones out. Everybody is online, but the person way up in the front of the line, who's the 17-year-old girl, is most likely not looking at the same thing as the 40-year-old dude behind you. And if they're looking at the same thing, for instance, Facebook, they're looking at it differently, okay? So that is something that we have to be aware of. Where is our ideal client hanging out? What platforms are they using? And how are they using them? Okay, so that was tip number 1. It's not about you. It's not about your personal preference. So the second tip that we're going to get into, and I just started talking about this a little bit, is where is your ideal client? Based on who they are, what they do with their lives, what their age is, where they work, they may be on a different type of platform. Or if they're on the same platform, they're using it differently. So the first platform that I always suggest people take a look at is Facebook. The reason for this is there are 2 billion plus people on Facebook. So that's like a third to a quarter of the population is on Facebook in some capacity. People in Rwanda are on Facebook. People in Vietnam are on Facebook. And while we may not be targeting those people as our ideal clients, that just goes to show the proliferation of this platform. But I say that because if we go back to that example of the 17-year-old girl versus the 40-year-old dude, they may both be on Facebook, but I can guarantee you they're using it differently. The 17-year-old girl is probably watching a video or checking out BuzzFeed for makeup tips or whatever, while the 40-year-old dude is probably, if he's watching a video, it's a current event or it's a news event or something like that. Now, yes, everybody goes to Facebook for some frivolity to kind of waste time, but the way they do that is different. So for you, this might mean, let's just throw some examples out there. Imagine that your client, your ideal client, is somebody who's really isolated. Maybe they're presenting problem. It just keeps them from being able to form relationships with people, and they have real struggle making friends, but they're also feeling like they're abnormal, like nobody gets me, nobody understands me. Maybe your best bet to target clients like that is to create a Facebook group. Use this Facebook group, the local group for social anxiety, you know, socially anxious in San Francisco. I don't know, whatever, something like that. But you're using this group and you're creating a community. You're teaching people how to interact socially online. Maybe you set up meetups in person, whatever, or you give people the opportunity to take the skills they're learning in your Facebook group to the real world. But you're providing a direct need and a service for the need of this type of client who's looking to join with others but struggles. So you create a community for them. An exact opposite of this might be your client is a really super busy CEO, and they don't have time to be using social media that way. They jump on, they just are getting their news, they're getting their updates. So maybe you create a Facebook page that's just quick tips, 2-minute tip for this, 2-minute tip for that. And you understand the way that your client uses social media, and you're serving them and providing the content in that need or in that way that meets their need. So can you start to see why choosing the right platform for your practice is important? It's not about you and what platforms you like, and it's not about how you use the platform. It's about who your ideal client is, where they are, and how they use a platform. So those are my 2 tips. Make sure that you're not basing your promotion of your practice on your personal preferences, and make sure you're not basing the promotion of your practice on how you use and where you hang out on social media. I hope this has been inspiring for you and that has kind of enlightened you to the ways that, yes, we absolutely have to acquiesce to our clients for social media, but we can do it in a way that still feels good for us, can still be authentic, and can still meet our needs as well. So if this talk has you wondering, well, where does my ideal client spend their time and how do they use these platforms? How do I know I'm doing this right, quote unquote? You can go ahead and click the button below and grab the worksheet that I was talking about. It's a quick little handout. It has each social media platform broken down by demographics and can teach you how people are using each platform. Just because they're watching video doesn't mean they're watching video the same. So all of these things have little minute details, and I really hope that the handout will help you kind of wrap your mind around this. If you have further questions, always reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook, my Facebook page, or you can just send me a quick email, marissa@ritzlawton.com. However you want to figure out what social media platforms are best for you, I'm always available for questions. All right, I hope this has been helpful, and I can't wait to see you guys next week.